Today we're going to be looking at 15 Easter eggs that proves Tommy Vercetti is still alive and likely around in Grand Theft Auto 5. So we're going to be looking at a ton of Easter eggs from GTA 5, but let's actually start in GTA San Andreas. So there's two references of Tommy Vercetti. The first of which actually occurs from his old friend from Vice City, the lawyer Ken Rosenberg, who after getting out of rehab actually attempts to call Tommy Vercetti from a payphone. Now we don't know who Ken Rosenberg is talking to on the other side of the line. All we know is that he asked to speak with Tommy Vercetti, but is denied, which is a really strange move because they were essentially best friends in Vice City. Ken Rosenberg really helped out Tommy, gave him connections to all sorts of different characters and people that would eventually get him to where he was at the end of the game, where he essentially became the king of Vice City. So you would think if your best friend calls you, he'd pick up the phone. Maybe Tommy Vercetti has gotten too big for little old Ken Rosenberg and is no longer answering his calls, or maybe they had some sort of fallout. But either way, the fact that he's trying to call him proves that Tommy is still alive. You wouldn't try and call a dead man. Now, the next reference actually occurs in the mission The Meat Business in GTA San Andreas, where CJ essentially has to rescue Ken Rosenberg from a meat factory. He actually gets locked inside of a freezer, and he makes a very interesting comment. He actually calls CJ Tommy, and CJ responds by saying, like, who the heck is Tommy? So it's clear that Ken has Tommy on his brain, and why wouldn't he if he wasn't alive? So again, I think that's a strong indicator right there that Tommy is still kicking it and still doing well. However, we know that Grand Theft Auto San Andreas takes place in 1992. So even though he was alive then, he could be dead today. Well, let's move on to some more references that proves that he's still alive. So there's actually a real website created by Rockstar, which is called Kent Paul's 80s Nostalgia Zone. Now, this was actually created in 2002, so basically 10 years later. Now, on this website, there is a sub-tab called Social Problems. And in that Social Problems tab, they have bikers. Now, Kent Paul was a character in Vice City who worked with Tommy on many occasions. And in describing the bikers, Kent Paul says, "See, Tom, I didn't mention your name nowhere. Maybe you won't get us killed now, okay?" So in this 2002 website, it seems as if Tommy Vercetti is still alive. However, that really doesn't bring us to the present day. That's 2002. That was a long time ago. Well, what about 2008 when Grand Theft Auto 4 takes place? So there's actually graffiti that can be seen on one of the apartments that Nico can live in, and it has a bunch of different things like Rip Claude, Rip Tony, and it also says Rip Tommy. So basically it has RIP and then all of the names of the previous GTA protagonist. It says, "Remember Tommy, you are still my hero," which would indicate to me that Tommy isn't alive. So when people saw this, a lot of people were freaking out saying, are all the past GTA protagonists dead? And the answer is no. Rockstar have actually confirmed that this is just a little reference to all the GTA characters in the past, and that it is not like a obituary for all of them being dead. Rockstar confirmed that the graffiti was intended to serve as a little joke for fans of the series. So if that's the case, in 2008, Tommy isn't dead. He's still alive. And then that brings us to 2013, where we see a ton of Vice City and Tommy Vercetti Easter eggs and references in-game. And we're going to be going over all of them in this video today, all the known ones so far. Now, I do believe some of these could be direct ties and references to Tommy Vercetti being alive. Some of them might not, but we are still going to be going over all of them in this video. The first one is Vice City Syndrome. So if you actually go to Dr. Freelander's website, you'll actually find one of the symptoms he's known for curing as Vice City Syndrome. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that is or what sort of symptoms you have from being in Vice City, but this is something that Dr. Freelander and his services will actually cure if this is something you're suffering from. That right there is the first reference of Vice City. The next one is actually a shirt that was added in the gun running DLC for Grand Theft Auto Online in particular, and it says Vice City. So obviously a cool reference right there. This is one of the clear ones where I don't think this has anything to do with Tommy Vercetti, but this is a nice reference right there. And you can apply this shirt to your character, which is pretty cool. So if you're driving on the highway on the west side of the map, if you actually stop at this sign in Chumash, you'll actually see a little indicator to Vice City on this sign for Chumash, which is actually kind of cool. Once again, I don't think this is a direct reference to Tommy Vercetti himself. Maybe there is some connection here, but you can find a Vice City reference on this Chumash sign. Moving on, probably one of the most famous Vice City references in the game is the beach towel that can be found on Vespucci Beach. You'll see many of the NPCs laying on this pink beach towel that says, "I heart Vice City." So that can be found right there. Probably the first reference potentially to Vice City is a pole position sticker that can actually be found on one of the telephones. Now, I think this is kind of a 2-in-1 Easter egg because those payphones were a way in which you got missions in Vice City, but also a sticker for the pole position means that it's likely still open today. And this was actually a nightclub that Tommy Vercetti could end up purchasing and owning in Vice City. So if he still owns it, if it's still open today, if people in 2013 are still advertising for it, you'd think that Tommy Vercetti is likely still alive. You'd think that if he had fallen, if he had died, that maybe that nightclub wouldn't be opened or would maybe have changed ownerships or something like that. So I think the fact that there's a pole position reference right there is a good indicator that Tommy is still alive. Another Easter egg that's pretty cool, you can actually find Lance Vance, the man who betrays Tommy Vercetti, inside of the ammunition store. There's actually a painting of him that can be seen in multiple locations. One is actually behind the counter, and if you go into the ammunition with the shooting range, one is located right above like the area where the shooting range occurs. So a nice reference to Lance Vance right there. Obviously one of the biggest characters in Vice City. After that, there's a reference to Lovefist. So Lovefist was a band that started in Vice City, was around in the 1980s. Apparently, they've made their way all the way to 2013. They're still alive and kicking it today. There's actually a Strangers and Freak Missions that features some of the characters from Lovefist, but you can actually see them and their advertising outside of Tequila La, which is typically where they do their shows. So that right there is kind of awesome. Now, another reference that I think directly ties to Tommy Vercetti is the Cherry Poppers Ice Cream Company. So you might not think anything of this brand in game. You'll probably notice it most on sort of the advertisements you see in game, inside the convenience stores, and maybe even on one of your favorite lowriders as a livery. However, you might not know that the Cherry Popper Ice Cream Company was bought, purchased, and owned by Tommy Vercetti. He's the owner of it. So if he owned this, he bought it in Vice City. If it's still around today, just like the Pole Position Club, you'd think that he's still alive, that he's still kicking it. So I think that right there is a great sign that Tommy Vercetti is still alive. The fact that the Cherry Popper Ice Cream is still around and still doing well. You also have the BJ Smith Recreation Center. So BJ Smith was a car salesman that Tommy actually worked with for Sunshine Autos in Vice City. He has his own rec center now. Again, nice reference right there. And last but not least, in Vice City, we actually hear an NPC say, "I'm moving to Vice City," if you actually pull them out of their car. Take a listen to this right now.
I'm moving to Vice City. Ah!
So who knows? Maybe that means that Vice City is still an attractive destination to visit, and if Tommy Vercetti is in charge, it's likely still a pretty nice place. All right, so now that you know all those references and Easter eggs, let's talk about how realistic it would be for Tommy Vercetti to still be alive. Well, we know that he's not dead based off of the events at the end of Vice City, so that gives us hope right there. A little bit of insight on Tommy himself. He was actually born in Liberty City in 1951. So since Grand Theft Auto 5 takes place in 2013, that would mean that if Tommy Vercetti were to still be alive, he would only be 62 years old, which is actually not that old, especially given some of the characters we've seen in the Grand Theft Auto series. So this definitely opens up the opportunity for him to not only still be alive, but also be a very viable presence in the gang life in the Grand Theft Auto series. So I definitely think it is possible for Tommy Vercetti to still be alive in Grand Theft Auto 5 and possibly living in Los Santos. You know, maybe he would stay in Vice City if his kingpin, his empire is going so well. You'd think he'd stay there. there, but he's from Liberty City and he came to Miami or Vice City, so who's to stop him from going to Los Santos? So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments section down below. Let's answer the grand question. Is Tommy Vercetti still alive, or do you think he's dead and died before the age of 62? I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section down below. If you did go on to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And also, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new. We like daily GTA 5 videos like this. All the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.